Welcome back to Daily Gossip, everyone. Grab your coffee, or maybe something a little stronger, because today we are diving deep into a timeline of events that perfectly encapsulates the sheer, dizzying whiplash of modern global politics. We are going to look at the surreal intersection of late-night social media meltdowns, fading 90s pop stars, and incredibly grave geopolitical crises that threaten to plunge us into a catastrophic, multi-generational conflict. It is a story of profound isolation, staggering hubris, and the very real consequences of a leader completely unraveling while holding the levers of international power. Let us set the scene. Picture this. It is 12:30 in the morning in Washington, D.C. The rest of the world is either sleeping or waking up to face a new day. But inside the White House, Donald Trump is wide awake, alone, and seemingly spiraling. He is not up late conferring with generals, nor is he poring over economic briefings. At 12:30 a.m., the man ostensibly running the free world is obsessively posting photographs of Hunter Biden. I want you to really let that sink in. A man in his late 70s, occupying the most powerful office on the planet, is sitting in the dark, absolutely consumed by the son of his political rival. It is the ultimate definition of living rent-free in someone's head. But it gets weirder and honestly much sadder. Earlier that day, Hunter Biden had posted a deeply personal, vulnerable message on his own social media accounts. He wrote to his followers about the struggles of addiction, saying, and quote, "Thousands of you have written to me about your recovery since I opened up about mine. Some of you are years sober. Some of you just made it through a hard day and wanted someone to know. And I will tell you what I tell everyone. You are not alone. You never are." End quote. It was a message of empathy, a moment of human connection that resonates with millions of families dealing with the quiet tragedy of substance abuse. So, how does the President of the United States respond to this vulnerability? At 12:30 a.m., Trump takes the photo accompanying Hunter's message, manipulates what Hunter was drawing in the original picture, and poorly photoshops it so that it looks like Hunter Biden is drawing a portrait of Donald Trump, complete with a caption crowning Trump as the, end quote, greatest president, end quote. It is bizarre. It is juvenile. It is the kind of behavior you would expect from a deeply insecure teenager on an internet forum, not a head of state. It forces us to ask a very uncomfortable question. Why is he behaving like this? What is driving this late-night desperation? The answer, it seems, lies in a profound and growing sense of cultural and political isolation. You see, this midnight meltdown did not happen in a vacuum. It happened precisely as the reality of his upcoming, end quote, Freedom 250, end quote, event was crashing down around him. For weeks, the administration had been hyping up a massive concert and celebration in Washington, D.C., to mark the country's 250-year history. But there was a massive problem. Nobody wanted to perform. The rejection was absolute. No A-list musical acts, no relevant performers, no celebrities of any cultural weight wanted their personal brands within 100 miles of this administration. They all canceled or refused the invitations. He has become politically and culturally toxic to the mainstream entertainment industry. Faced with this humiliating public rejection, the narcissism kicked into overdrive. Unable to admit that he had been boycotted, Trump took to social media to frantically rewrite reality. He posted a rambling statement declaring that the June 24th event would no longer be a concert, but rather, end quote, a rally to end all rallies, end quote. He attempted to spin the crushing rejections into a deliberate choice, writing, end quote, "We Don and Oppos. T want singers with no talent but big fees to put you to sleep. We and Oppos. V told them all, and Oppos. Stay home. And Oppos. All we want is you, me, a few speakers, and the greatest music ever played," end quote. He then proudly announced that the musical entertainment would be provided by none other than Lee Greenwood singing, end quote, "God Bless America," end quote. Now, no disrespect to Lee Greenwood, but pivoting from the promise of a star-studded gala to a solitary performance of a song from 1984 is the ultimate admission of defeat. It is the political equivalent of throwing a party, having nobody show up, and loudly declaring to the empty room that you prefer your own company anyway. And as if to underscore the sheer desperation of this cultural abandonment, we then witnessed one of the most surreal moments in modern television history. State-friendly media, Fox News, in a frantic attempt to do damage control regarding the canceled artists, decided to bring on a celebrity guest to vouch for Trump and Oppo's party-throwing credentials. Who did they get? Did they get a modern chart topper? A cultural icon? No. They brought on Robert Matthew Van Winkle, better known to the world as Vanilla Ice. I want you, especially those of you in your 30s and older who actually remember the 1990s, to imagine the cognitive dissonance of watching Vanilla Ice on a primetime news broadcast in the 2020s, acting as the cultural shield for the president. The man who brought us, in quote, Ice Ice Baby, in quote, sat there and said, and quote, who throws a better party than Trump? Let and Oppos. Be honest. I and Oppos. V been to a few of them. Let and Oppos. Get cheesy with it. Neon colors. Go ninja. Go. End quote. He even asked the host if she was going to wear her pajama pants. It was a staggering display of irrelevance. You have Vanilla Ice essentially giving a pep talk while the administration tries to mask the fact that the broader cultural zeitgeist has completely and utterly rejected them. It is almost tragicomic, a bizarre pantomime of success masking a deep, hollow failure. But the physical reality of Trump's environment mirrors this internal decay. While he posts late-night memes and relies on 90s novelty acts for validation, he is sitting in a White House that is currently undergoing massive, secretive construction. Trump recently boasted online about the, in quote, ballroom, in quote, coming along fantastically well, claiming it is on time and under budget, taking a random swipe at the Federal Reserve building in the process, before casually mentioning the construction of a, in quote, drone port, in quote, and, in quote, many military elements which are all vital for national security, end quote. If you look at aerial photos of the White House grounds right now, it does not look like the people and Oppo's house. It looks like a heavily fortified, dystopian junkyard. The sprawling, lush lawns have been replaced by concrete, scaffolding, and militarized zones. The aesthetic of his environment is becoming as ugly and defensive as his late-night rhetoric. He is literally walling himself in, physically and psychologically. Now, if this were merely a story about a fading politician throwing tantrums, making terrible Photoshop memes, and hanging out with Vanilla Ice, we could just shake our heads, have a laugh, and move on. It would just be the daily gossip. But the terrifying reality is that this deeply insecure, isolated man is still the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military on the planet. And while he is distracted by his bruised ego and Hunter Biden's social media, incredibly serious, life-and-death situations are spiraling out of control under his watch. We have to pivot from the absurd to the severe, because the consequences of this leadership vacuum are becoming catastrophic. Let us look at what is happening in the Middle East right now, specifically regarding Oman and Iran. A few days ago, Donald Trump made a cavalier, highly aggressive public threat regarding the Strait of Hormuz. On camera, for the whole world to see, he dismissed the idea of Iran having any control over the international waters. But he didn't end Oppos. He stopped there. He specifically targeted Oman, stating, and quote, Oman will behave just like everybody else. So we and Oppos, LL have to blow them up. They understand that. They and Oppos, LL be fine, end quote. He threatened to bomb a sovereign nation as casually as one might order a cup of coffee. Exactly 9 days after he issued that threat, Oman and Oppos' main oil terminal, the Mina Al Fahal, was hit by a massive drone strike. The explosion was huge, forcing the suspension of all oil loading and leaving multiple supertankers stranded off the coast. Now, the immediate reactionary assumption pushed by some circles was to blame Iran. But when you apply even a shred of geopolitical logic to the situation, that narrative falls apart completely. Iran and Oman are allies. In fact, Foreign Minister Araghchi of Iran had just met with the Omani foreign minister. They were actively working out diplomatic toll systems. It makes absolutely zero strategic sense for Iran to launch a drone strike against their own diplomatic partner, especially when they are already under immense international. So where did the drone come from? When the President of the United States publicly threatens to blow a country up, and 9 days later that country is blown up, we have to look very closely at the United States military apparatus or allied forces like Israel. Yet we are getting absolute silence and obfuscation from CENTCOM. The U.S. Central Command is refusing to provide accurate data or transparency. It strongly suggests a false flag operation, a misdirected strike, or an unauthorized escalation that the administration is desperately trying to cover up. We are watching a rogue foreign policy unfold in real time, dictated by impulse and covered up by institutional silence. And speaking of institutional cover-ups, the lies are not limited to drone strikes in the Middle East. They are happening right inside the U.S. Navy. Thanks to an exclusive investigation by CNN, horrific new footage has surfaced regarding the March 2026 fire aboard the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford. At the time of the incident, the Trump administration fed the American public and the press a completely laughable story. They claimed that the massive fire on a multi-billion-dollar warship was started in the laundry area due to, and quote, excessive lint, end quote. Let me repeat that, lint. They expected the world to believe that a state-of-the-art supercarrier was crippled by a dryer fire. Completely coincidentally, at the exact same time tensions with Iran were peaking and Iran was claiming to have struck the vessel. The newly released footage and internal reports blow that lie out of the water. We now know that the ship and OPO's automatic fire suppression system utterly failed. The situation was so dire, so catastrophic, that American sailors had to fight the raging fire manually for 30 agonizing hours. 600 sailors lost their living quarters entirely. Interviews with the crew reveal that many of the soldiers genuinely believed the entire ship was going to be lost and that they were going to die in the middle of the ocean. The administration minimized the trauma, the danger, and the systemic failure experienced by its own military personnel, all to protect the image of the commander-in-chief. They gaslit the Navy and the public because the truth, whether it was a successful foreign attack or a catastrophic mechanical failure, did not fit the narrative of absolute Trumpian strength. This pattern of deception and refusal to face reality extends into his business and legal life as well. Let's talk about the lawsuit that is likely haunting him just as much as his political failures. Earlier this year, Trump filed a massive, headline-grabbing $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the BBC. He claimed that the British broadcaster had maliciously altered his words in a documentary special regarding the January 6th insurrection. It was a classic Trump move. Go on the offensive, throw around a ridiculously large dollar amount to intimidate the press, and play the victim for his base. However, lawsuits are not press conferences. They require evidence. The Financial Times recently broke the story regarding the discovery phase of this lawsuit, and it is a masterclass in calling a bluff. The BBC's legal team sent numerous, highly specific discovery requests to the Trump organization. Their argument was simple and legally sound. And quote, "You claim we caused you $10 billion in economic damage. Prove it. Open your books. We want to see the financial records from the Trump Trust, the entity that controls all your various businesses, so we can calculate exactly how much money you actually lost." And quote, the BBC, unlike so many others, did not back down. They leaned into the process aggressively. In response to the discovery requests sent to them, the BBC produced over 45,000 documents. Do you know how many documents Donald Trump and his legal team have produced to prove their $10 billion loss? 0. Not a single spreadsheet, not a single tax return, not a single internal memo. Instead, they have filed endless objections, claiming the financial documents are, and quote, not relevant, and quote, to a lawsuit entirely predicated on financial damages. It is absurd. We are finally seeing a major news agency do what legal experts have advised for years. Use the discovery process to forcefully pry open the black box of Trump and OPO's finances. The walls are closing in on this lawsuit. It is highly predictable that in the coming weeks or months, Trump will quietly drop the case, claiming he simply, and quote, doesn't and OPO's have the time, and quote, to pursue it, solely to prevent his actual financial reality from being entered into the public court record. He is trapped by his own litigation. So, when you take all of this together, the midnight panic posting, the isolation from the cultural mainstream, the lies about military disasters, the reckless threats against sovereign nations, and the crumbling legal bluffs, you see a picture of a man cornered. But the danger is not just to him. The danger is to all of us. Because when a leader is this cornered, they make historical mistakes. To truly understand the gravity of the geopolitical hole we are currently standing in, we have to listen to the experts who have actually managed these conflicts before. Leon Panetta, the former Secretary of Defense and former director of the CIA, recently gave a chilling assessment of the situation the Trump administration has engineered with Iran. Panetta did not mince words. He stated unequivocally that this current conflict is rapidly turning into, and quote, Trump and Oppos, Vietnam, end quote. For listeners in Europe and the Americas, the invocation of Vietnam is the ultimate cautionary tale of military disaster. Panetta drew direct parallels. He pointed out that in Vietnam, the American public never got a straight story from the administration about what was actually happening on the ground, just like the lies we are being fed right now about Oman and the USS Gerald Ford. Panetta noted that the fundamental, original sin of this current war was the arrogant belief, based on faulty assurances, that a, and quote, decapitation strike, end quote, against Iranian leadership would cause the regime to collapse in a matter of days. American intelligence agencies explicitly warned that this would not happen, but Trump ignored the intelligence and acted on hubris. The result? A terrible, bloody miscalculation. The hardline regime in Iran remains firmly in power. Panetta warns that because of this failed strategy, any agreement the U.S. attempts to cobble together now regarding the Strait of Hormuz or nuclear enrichment will be flimsy, temporary, and ultimately unenforceable without a rigorous verification process that hasn't and Oppos even been discussed yet. We are staring down the barrel of a quagmire. Panetta concluded with a grim prophecy. Because we failed to achieve the initial, unrealistic objectives, and because we have emboldened the hardliners, the United States and its allies will likely be forced to go back to all-out war with Iran in 4 or 5 years. This is the reality we are living in. We have a leader who is simultaneously micromanaging his grievances against Hunter Biden in the middle of the night, seeking comfort from Vanilla Ice, and setting the stage for a catastrophic, multi-trillion-dollar global conflict because he cannot admit a strategic mistake. The juxtaposition is enough to give you whiplash. It is the juxtaposition of a deeply unserious man wielding incredibly serious, world-ending power. The White House looks like a militarized junkyard because the policies emanating from it are equally defensive, chaotic, and broken. We cannot afford to look away. We cannot let the absurdity of the late-night tweets distract us from the gravity of the military cover-ups and the geopolitical failures. They are two sides of the same coin, the symptoms of a deeply compromised administration. We have to keep demanding the truth, demanding transparency, and refusing to accept, and quote, lint, end quote, as an excuse for systemic failure. If you appreciate this kind of deep, unvarnished analysis, if you want to look past the superficial headlines and understand the real mechanisms of power and consequence shaping our world, I need you to do me a favor. Please hit that subscribe button down below. Like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts on Panetta and Oppos' assessment, and share this podcast with someone who needs to hear it. We are on a mission to reach 7 million subscribers here at Daily Gossip, and every single one of you helps us cut through the noise and deliver the hard truths. And if you want to stay even more plugged in, make sure you become a subscriber to our Substack over at MidasPlus.com. That is where you will get daily, detailed recaps, ad-free episodes of this podcast, and exclusive investigative content that you will not find anywhere else. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, for keeping an open mind, and for watching. Stay safe out there, stay informed, and I will see you all in the next episode.